this. You can do all of this on a Windows PC or a Mac PC if you want to. Okay, slide 10. So now we're going to quickly take you through the 3 workshop exercises. These are the 3 simple steps. So the first step being sequence. And bear in mind, this isn't an interactive workshop. So our aim here is just to explain what we did in the workshops and show you that it isn't that difficult to get going in Python. Our first exercise is to write a program that inputs 2 numbers and multiplies them together. Even though this is a simple program, it's our first program, so there's a lot to do. Everything is new, and that it's change, and that makes us feel uncomfortable. But by the end of the workshop, anyway, it did seem like second nature. Firstly, we looked at the shebang, which is a crazy name. It's a special type of comment which sets the environment. That's on row 1 of the code that you can see on the right. This is the real code that we used in the exercise. In the exercise, we would type it in line by line and explain statements as we went and build up to the completed program. Comments, it's always important for code to be self-documenting and explanatory and easily maintainable. It might not be you fixing or amending the code. That's rows 2 to 13 onwards, anything with a line that starts with a hash. A print statement, probably the most commonly known command to non-programmers, and we've got those on rows 15, 23, 28 and 24. We've got an input variable. We input some data on rows 21 and 27, and we do some string handling as well. Once the code's been written, we move on to explain the process of compilation, where the IDE, the Integrated Development Environment, Genie, checks whether the code is valid as a process of compilation. It looks syntactically, and then it builds an object version. If the code is invalid, the compile will fail and give us some error messages. Genie's fairly lightweight. So its error messages are quite basic. More feature-rich compilers can tell you exactly what you've done wrong, and more feature-rich IDEs might actually stop you making the mistakes in the first place. And finally, because I believe all programs must run, we then execute the code. In the exercise, so as I said, we step through the code showing each statement, explaining what it does, write a bit of code and execute it. So even with our first program, what we actually build up doing is compiling it and executing it a number of times, gaining confidence all the time. Just a statement here, because some of you might know about Python. Python is generally accepted to be an interpreted language. This means that a Python file or Python program is executed one line at a time, and at runtime the code is evaluated or interpreted. Python can also be compiled for some small performance gains on larger programs. However, the process of compilation is a very useful check, even if we're only executing files through the interpreter. And please don't worry if you don't understand any of that yet.
So the code you can see on the right there is the actual code as it's shown in the Genie ID window. We've not made any color changes to highlight anything. That's the IDE itself being helpful, showing you what you've got there. Red for comments, so that's the hash at the start, shows all the comment lines, and they're highlighted in red. We've got the blue there, such as print, that's for sort of a statement. Functions are shown in the dark red color there, such as input, and variables are shown in black. We're not covering variables in this presentation because that could go on for hours just in itself, so we're just trying to give you a sort of a taster here. Having these colors shows the main elements of the code that you're writing. Essentially what this one does, it prints out hello world. Every first program needs to do that, and then it asks for 2 numbers to be inputted, prints out the numbers to confirm the input, then multiplies the 2 numbers together and prints out the answers. In the exercises, we also had suggestions to enhance them once you felt comfortable with the code. and in the workshop we had successfully run the program. We moved on to testing it and finding out the errors in the code.